Hello and welcome to this practice video. I thought this might be quite useful before you go on to do the big Christmas wreath, to just have a little practice in your journal or on a scrap piece of paper, practice some of the leaves and the movements. So what we're going to do is, if you prepare a piece of paper, I haven't stretched mine, it should be fine if it's 300 GSM, and then we're going to go straight in and we're going to just have a quick little practice on some leaves. So if you firstly draw a simple stem and then press your brush down in sort of a semicircle movement, and we've got a very light wash on our brush, and then do the exact same thing, touching the other leaf, and then we'll add another one separately to one side. And you can see the colour differences in those. I've got a bit more paint on the lower leaf, and one's touching the other, which means the colour has run. And now I'm dropping a little bit of paint into the stem and allowing it to bleed and move into the leaves. Now you can fill all the leaves in by doing this to deepen the colour, or you can just highlight the tops and the bottoms and then just leave it to dry and see the different effect that you get. So the centre of the leaf is quite transparent. Now mixing up a darker colour, we're going to paint the leaf shape again, and then press your brush and lift it up as you come towards the tip. And then using just a clean amount of water here, I've just rinsed my brush, just touch the other leaf to create a leaf that looks like it's just a little bit in the background. And then you can again drop a tiny little bit more colour into the stem and let it run a little bit. Now this is going to give you nice effects for the eucalyptus. Now you can also paint some nice long leaves by pressing down with a light pressure on your brush. So you start with the tip and then you press down, then you lift your brush up again and flick it at a bit of an angle. And this will give you some nice sort of long tendril type leaves. Again, I've not got much paint on my brush, so if you want to go in and just drop a little bit more or fill it in once you've got the shape, you can do, or you can leave it quite transparent like this with just a small amount of paint on there. And again, if you just drop it in at the base of the leaves, I'm dropping in a contrasting colour here of the more sap green, and then help it along, but leave some areas alone so that you've got that lovely contrasting colour of different greens. And then another way you can do it is if you get some clean water, and I'm just creating the shape of the three leaves and a stem, and then you get the paint and you literally just drop it in. And this is going to give you a nice sort of watery effect. And when this dries, it's quite pale, and this will work nicely as a background foliage. So if you want to do some stronger greens for your foregrounds, and the one I've just done is quite nice to do as sort of a filler in between. If you want to make your wreath a bit thicker, you can add these as the filler. Now, if you have a normal consistency of paint on your brush, you paint the stem, again, press down and then lift up in a curving motion so that you get that nice round leaf. And you can also leave little spaces in between if you wanted to create like a highlight. And then again, richer amount of paint, drop it into the stem and just help it along so it just touches the leaves at the base and maybe even just the tip. It just gives you that nice little effect of eucalyptus. And then just let it run and see how that dries. Okay, so we'll just go through some of those again. So you can have a rounded leaf shape, not too much paint, it's just enough. It's more of a background leaf. And then if you mix up a sort of a nice richer green, like a sap green, and then you can create a stronger leaf in front, allow it to touch the damp leaf behind, and it will bleed, and sometimes it will run into that leaf, and sometimes some of the pigment from that leaf will run back into the stronger one. So you will get different effects. You can see how that's bleeding nicely. Sometimes you can have really sharp leaf edges and sometimes leave them a bit ragged, like the last one that I've just done. Again, drop some nice water in and then bring the stem up to it. And again, I'm going to do the same thing again. Add the leaf underneath and allow it to touch the wet area. And again, we'll do another one here and we'll allow that to touch. And just notice which way the water moves and runs. You can add some more watery ones for background here, and they're much lighter with not much paint on. And you can see how you start to get that effect. The foreground and the background. Once they're dry, you'll be able to see which effects you like to use in your wreath. And here's a little close-up of when my painting was still damp, and you can see where I've used these effects. I've got different coloured greens. They are different amount of strength in terms of how much paint I've used. I've allowed some to remain quite watery. I've allowed some to bleed, and others I've just painted in sort of a block. I've tried to make them sort of turn in different directions slightly as well, so you get all of this going on, and it creates a nice natural looking display of foliage. So have a go, have a little practice on your spare paper first so that you get a feel for it. You can always stop when I start to get to the point in the video where I do the leaves. You can always pause there and just practice a little bit away from your main painting, and then come back to it when you feel comfortable that you know what you want to do. So I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you in the next video.